Whenever I walked into the clubhouse at PNC Park for the first time on Monday, I saw a bouncy castle for Connor Griffin's birthday. Whenever I went into it the second time after the game, the bouncy castle was just like the room, deflated. Good morning, and welcome to Offbeat here on North Shore 9, presented by FanDuel. My name is Alex Stumpf. This is a daily look at your Pittsburgh Pirates. I feel like we have talked about tough losses more this first month and change of the season than we did for a lot of 2025. And maybe that was just because 2025 always had that, sky is falling feeling, especially early on in the year. But there have been a couple losses in this ballpark that it's early. There's plenty of time to make up ground. And, it could just be a blip on the radar over 162. But where you look at it right now, Pirates should have 2, 3, 4 more wins than they have right now from just not being able to close out basic games. And Monday was a prime example of that. Monday was very close to being one of the better feel-good wins so far. Coming in off of that series win in Milwaukee, something that's, easier said than done. Winning that series there, come into Pittsburgh. Don't have Braxton Ashcraft for Monday. He's expected to start on Tuesday. So you got to go with the bullpen game, and you got to go to Wilber Dotel, who, like I said on here, I'm high on. I don't think he'd be in the major leagues if it wasn't for, Urquidy and Barco and, struggling and the bullpen in general just needing a long guy. But he comes in, and he is outstanding. I'm omitting two people. Mason Montgomery pounds fastballs, looks great. 1-2-3 inning. Justin Lawrence comes in, looks great. 1-2-3 inning. Dotel, the fastball was riding high 90s, triple digits a couple times, upper part of the zone consistently, was looking fantastic. 4 perfect innings. The Pirates took a perfect game into the 7th inning for the second time in 4 days, and the hit that broke it by Burleson was just a ground ball infield single that beat the shift. And even then, Nick Gonzalez almost made a great play on it. Just one of those tough, it happens type plays. Then the 9th inning rolls around. Dennis Santana, who's been so good ever since he became a Pirate, that was as flat as I've ever seen his slider. Outside of, Colorado, which is playing on the moon, the altitude's messing out here. It's the worst I've seen the slider at PNC Park. Whenever it's clicking, it has some glove side movement. It didn't on Monday. Pajes hits a home run. I think it was Fernan who had the go-ahead hit after J.J. Weatherholt hit a game-tying home run. That one was on a fastball that was as center cut as you're ever going to see from a pitcher. So just 3 or 4 really poorly executed pitches, had trouble finding the strike zone with anything but the 4-seamer and the slider. He did have to deal with a tough base hit that, started off foul, but just rolled up back into fair territory. Maybe that changes the calculus of the inning. Maybe he gets away with only 2 runs allowed. But even then, that's a blown save. Even then, you remember, like, Jake Marisnick. Twice I've done that now. I got to stop doing that. Jake Mangum getting caught between third and home on a ball that's off of the bat of Henry Davis that, gets knocked down at short. Tough play, tough read. It's a tough situation, but you got to kind of commit one way or the other on that. You either got to go all out, make that hard turn at third, or whenever you don't make that hard turn, you got to stay at third and just keep the inning going. That was a tough out, a tough run, that they ran themselves out of. There are parts of this lineup that just aren't producing still, but this was supposed to be a feel-good story of a young man coming in, presumably getting his first major league win. I mean, it would have been up to the official score, but I have to imagine that 4 perfect innings would probably get you the win. And instead, it's another loss. It's back-to-back losses, something we haven't seen since the first 2 games of the season. And it's 1 game out of 162. It's only game number 29. But especially in the division, and especially in this division, that's a tough pill to swallow. And credit to Dennis Santana. Talked to media afterwards, didn't shy away. He's like, not how I wanted it to go. He said, like, I want to get this quote exactly right on it, because Dennis has a candor that I really do appreciate. And it's why I think he is one of the leaders of this clubhouse. He assessed it saying, one of those nights where you suck. And yeah. And you know what? Dennis Santana has enough equity built up that one blown save doesn't change a whole lot for him personally, in his standings, in everything. I am going to keep an eye on that slider next time to see, if he's going to get it back to the glove side instead of the hand side, because the hand side's where the slug's at. That's whatever that pitch just comes in flat. And yeah, I mean, not saying that Paz hit an absolute tank. He hit it to the right part of the ballpark, but it's still a home run. So it's one outing, but these types of losses stack. For my newsletter for Book Rule Bucks, I just laid out some thoughts I have on this portion of the season. And one of them was one that's been sticking with me for a while, is like, is this team for real? And I wrote yes. And in the midst of writing yes, I wrote a lot of things that I have concerns about, that I have trepidations about. We've talked about a lot of them. The lack of starting pitching veteran depth, and how that rotation could be thin, even with Jared Jones coming back, just because a lot of these guys haven't pitched 6 months as a starting pitcher before. There's that. There's the concerns with the defense. We've talked about that. We've talked about how this offense is very top heavy, not getting production all the way through, even though Nick Gonzalez is now batting over 300 after a 3-hit game. There's just like a lot of things that, are nagging at me. And middle relief was one, but, the back end hadn't been. Back half had been solid with Soto and Santana. And like I said, I'm not, saying the sky is falling with Santana, but it's just one of those cases where you need the whole team. You need all 26. This is the most talented roster of the Ben Cherington era, and I don't think it's controversial to say that, but they still need all 26. There can be times whenever they can just simply out-talent an opponent. And for all of their mistakes and for all of the ups and downs, just, we are the better constructed team. Whether that's, Paul Skeens is on the mound and he shoves and they win a game 2-1, or, it's Brandon Lau hitting 2 home runs or whatever. Like, there are just enough people here who can have a ball game. That can have a ball game and win you the game. And it was supposed to be Wilber Dotel's night. And I thought it was going to be a special night, because it's not someone that I think anyone had on their bingo card. Or if they did, it wasn't on April 27th. I don't know how long Dotel is going to stay in the major leagues. There's a roster spot coming up here because Braxton Ashcraft is going to be returning to the majors from the bereavement list. So maybe he sticks around. Maybe it's Cam Sanders who goes down, or someone else. But I don't, regardless, I don't see Dotel. Dotel has not pitched his last minor league game. He will go back down at some point. And for as much as we talk about, like, the Paul Skeens and the Bubba Chandlers, and, how great those pitchers are, those top prospects coming up, and doing stuff like that. I can tell you from the development side and from the farm system side, it's the Wilber Dotels that sometimes make a bigger impact. Of those homegrown guys, of those guys who are in Bradenton, who have home run problems, who aren't doing well, and they see Dotel and they're like, you know what? He was in my shoes 2 or 3 years ago. Let's see if I can, if he figured it out and he's picking up wins in the majors, let me do that too. It's a great aspirational type of player to have. Cam Sanders, another one. Guy was, I believe, a 27, 28-year-old minor league free agent who nobody had really heard of, signed to go back to AA in Altoona because he believed in the system and the opportunity, rises his way to being on a major league roster. That is a great story for a lot of guys in the minors to look up and see. And I'm not saying that Dotel not getting a win doesn't mean that his story is sullied or anything, but you want to see those type of guys win. You want them to have their moment. And that's what's really deflating about a night like Monday. At the end of the day, it's a 4-2 loss where your normally reliable closer has an off night. Every team is going to have a game like this. It's just whenever you miss out on a win for Wilber Dotel, and you miss out on a win where you have to trust the bullpen, and the bullpen, part of the bullpen that hasn't always been the most reliable this year. And they come together, and not only are they good, they are nearly perfect. 7 innings and just an infield single between them. It was a game that, whenever O'Neal Cruz is sick, and it's like, you know what? It's got to be tough. Find a way to win. And, they're right there at the 1-yard line, and that's a tough one. There's still 3 games left against the Cardinals. Finding a way to secure at least a split, I think, would be very important, because you don't want to be looking up at that division, even if you have a winning record, at the end of the month. You don't want to be looking up at everyone at that division. You want to feel like you belong. You feel like you want to be able to say, we can at least beat the division, so we're not worried about the standings. It's too early to worry about the standings, I know, but it's like, prove that we can be one of the best in the NL Central because we are beating the best. That should be the Pirates' mantra. Just a lot of small paper cuts that just added up and added up. The bouncy castle was cute, though. I didn't see anyone jump on it. Thank you so much for listening to Offbeat here on North Shore 9, presented by FanDuel. And thank you for watching if you're checking it out on YouTube and seeing all these lovely seats in Section 322. If you'd like to see it on YouTube, we have a video podcast there. And if you just want to catch it on audio, wherever you find a podcast, we'll be there too. Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk again tomorrow.
All right, that wraps up this episode of North Shore 9. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whether you're listening on the podcast or catching us on YouTube, if you enjoyed the show, please give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It really helps us grow. And if you're listening on the podcast, a quick review goes a long way in helping others find the show. Plus, be sure to tell a friend about us. There's always room for more here in the NS9 community. And for those looking to support us a little more, consider joining our Patreon, become an MVP member, and get exclusive perks while helping us continue to bring you more of the Pirates content you love. Thanks again for all your support, and let's go Bucks.